Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Emmanuel, I'm an airline pilot, and in today's video I want to show you a new method of taking screenshots that I recently discovered that just make those screenshots look a lot better. Now, I know that many of you are going to say something along the lines of, yeah, just get a third-party add-on, that's gonna make it a lot easier, but I really think that the simulator's default controls for the camera do the job just about fine if you know how to handle them. Alright, now let's go ahead and get right into this one. We are starting this on the aircraft selection screen because, well, there are a couple things that go into this method in order to be able to get the most out of it. So, of course, pick the airplane of your choice, no need to talk about that, and then pick an airport where you are going to be able to get a custom background. So that means something like a terminal building, but anything except for the flight simulator's default terrain map, because the default terrain is not going to look very good under these specific techniques that I'm about to show you. So, for example, Munich has an awesome looking terminal that is pretty recognizable. So let's go ahead and select Munich as our airport today. Now, think about this beforehand. You want the sunlight to not be directly in front or behind you later on. So do pick a runway that is going to make that possible. And likewise, do pick a runway that is going to make it possible to rotate the airplane on the runway while still having the background you want. So for example, that's going to be 26 left for us in Munich over here. So let's go ahead and select Munich's runway 26 left, load a flight over there, and once the flight is loaded, we can go into the next couple of steps. Now, something you will unfortunately notice in FS 2024 is that the thing is not really going to care about your runway selections, and this, wait for it guys, this is going to be something special right now. It's where I'm really happy to have GSX, because GSX can simply beam you to any runway you want. So that's kind of the only third-party add-on we need for this video over here. Otherwise, you could of course always taxi into position, but a little annoying. Today we wanted 26 left, so let's go there, walk me there, and here we are. Now, last but not least, let's just go ahead and select some flaps, and then we're basically ready to go up here. So, by default, you could always go to the outside view, bring it in position, and just, you know, take the screenshot you want. The problem with that is, especially if you have a larger monitor, your simulator is going to distort everything. Like, if you look at the tailplane over here, that thing is really not going to look the way that you want it to look. So in order to be able to take the best possible screenshots, well, we need to use the drone camera. More on that in a little moment over here. Let's first of all go ahead and talk about perspectives, because perspectives are something that really do matter when people judge how good or not a screenshot is later on. So you could do all the lovely kinds of perspectives where you see the airplane nicely like this, but what flight simmers usually want to see is the perspective that they are used to from real-world aviation pictures. So that's typically going to be your average spotter perspective from the outside, or your average GoPro, something like that from the inside, you know? Just imagine sticking a GoPro up the window, and that's kind of the position that people want to see, because it reminds them the most of what they are used to from seeing real-world aviation, which the majority of us either does from the airport fence or from YouTube videos. So that's also the reason why you do see me putting up perspectives like this in the cruise portions of my videos, in pretty much all my full flight videos. Alright, so for the purpose of today's video, we want either a landing or a takeoff shot, because that's what people do seem to appreciate the most. And the easier option is, of course, to take the takeoff shot. Otherwise, you could just, you know, do a quick traffic pattern, come back around. Just make sure to get a stabilized approach in, at least from the last 500 feet or so, because if you are fiddling with that stuff on short final, chances are your airplane's not going to be in a good position, like you might have a bit too much bank or so in order to take a good screenshot later on. So we want to do a takeoff perspective over here. Now, what we are up to do right now is obviously not going to be very realistic. We are just going to release a park and brake. And then what I'm going to do is I'll just go full backstick and wait until the plane starts rotating. Obviously, that's going to be much too slow. But the reason we are doing it this way is because we want to be able to pause the simulator in exactly the position that you want your airplane to be in. So if you waited until VR you started rotating, your airplane would immediately start lifting off. That's not going to look very good on screenshots. It will be difficult to get exactly the position you want. So what we want today is the wheels still on the ground and the nose just about coming up like this. All right. Let's pause it over here. You can see we're obviously much too slow. If we just continued pulling, we would end up in a tail strike in a matter of seconds here. But look at that general perspective. That is what people like to see, because that is what people are used to from their real-world aviation backgrounds, and there is some action in this shot. You know the airplane is about to do something, it's about to lift off. It triggers your imagination of flying, so that's why shots during rotation, as well as just prior to touchdown in the flare, are really the type of shots that people do appreciate. Now, let's go ahead and talk about how to get the best possible shot out of this. So, first of all, we gotta have the airplane in a position where you can see something proper behind the airplane. So right now, that would be terminal buildings and stuff from this perspective. We could go over here, where you got the terminal and the tower over here. Now, let's go ahead and switch to the drone cam and have a little look into some settings that you got to do with the drone. So I got keyboard shortcut for that, which is Shift X. That's the default sim keyboard to switch to the drone camera. Or you could obviously just do it through the camera menu up here. And since we'll need the camera menu anyway, let's go to Showcase. Now, here's a little problem. The way that the camera works by default is that it adjusts to the zoom of your simulator. But just have a look at what the airplane looks like when I'm moving around over here. You can see how it's really cropping it up and how it's taking everything out of perspective. That's not looking very good on screenshots. So what we need is a perspective from further in the back, and then you need to zoom it in. And I would recommend to go to the zoom level over here, put that all the way to 1.0. Now, going to 100 has two effects. Number one, you are going to get rid of any of that stretching of the airplane. Like if we go into this perspective right now, there we are getting very close to the screenshot we want. However, if you do this with the default simulated terrain in the background, you'll notice that it becomes totally blurry. Like, if you look at the taxiways over here, that's not looking very good. That's why I said earlier, you need to pick a custom 3D object in the background. Like a terminal building, a tower, just something that's not going to become blurry, which are usually 3D objects. Now, from this moment on, we do have some pretty nice perspectives over here. You can simply go ahead and select whatever you want, and something that people do appreciate is a little bit of grass or something in the foreground, because the simulator is doing a pretty good job at showing you that. So something like this, maybe a little further up. You can further control the drone speeds over here if you want to. Just be aware that it will become difficult to move it around later on. So if you do select the low ground speed now, in order to be able to get that nice grass down here into the view, then just attempt to get your desired perspective in earlier. Now, the last thing that you really want for a good screenshot is the sun to be in the right position and the weather to be just right. So, for example, if you have a weather setting where you have a lot of clouds, you know, that could make for some bad lighting here. Like if you go for that, yeah, not looking all that good, is it? So what's normally looking best is a few cloud scenario. So if real world live weather works, very good. Otherwise, few clouds or scattered clouds usually looking the best. Like right now, still a little bit too many clouds. So let's go few, you know, or just go clear skies, which is often looking great as well. The last thing you want now is for the sun to be in the best position. So you can see right now, you know, sometimes the shadows are not looking that good. Sometimes you're losing a lot of detail on the airplane depending on the position of the sun. So what we're going to do, and what usually works best, is either an early morning or a late evening setup. We can see early morning not looking that good today because the sun is coming from the wrong side. So let's go over to an evening perspective and have a look at that. You can see this is where we are slowly getting into a region that's looking best. So I'd say right now, I could either do something like that, where the sun is lighting up the background and then the plane stays a little bit darker, or you could do something where the sun is coming from behind you. That's usually looking the best. However, that's not really working good with our background right now. So the last option there is to get something where the sun is casting as little shadow as possible on your airplane. So something like this maybe at the moment. And if you're going for that, have a look at the overall picture right now. If you take that and make it a little bit smaller, like right now, I'm recording on 4K screen here, 42 inches. If I crop that down later on, that's going to look pretty good. You're going to see that as this image is also going to become the thumbnail of the video. That's probably drawn your attention getting here in the first place. And yeah, that is how you could now adjust it in order to give you the best possible blend between the high detail grass on the bottom and the high detail background from the airport. And yeah, that's everything that goes into this. So just a little theory over here, something that people usually appreciate in pictures to make them look the best is several different lines. Either vertical, like we've got with the tower over there, and then horizontal lines, like we got with the edge between the grass and the runway, or the terminal. Like that, get a couple of lines in. Usually try to split the picture into thirds. So what people appreciate the most is when you got 1/3, which we got up here, with the sky and the tower. Then you got the second third, where the airplane is. Then we got the last third, where we got the grass down there. So something like that is what usually attracts the human eye the most. And that's how you can set the perspective, how you can set the outside scene, and how you can generally get your simulator to look the best for a screenshot. Now, obviously, if you went out of the active pause over here, if you just made this move again, it may not necessarily look that good anymore. So make sure to get that simulator pause into exactly the right moment, how you want the airplane to be. Like, if we were to do a landing shot, then, just put it a tiny bit higher so that the viewer is going to imagine the airplane touching down in a few moments so that you once again get some action into the pictures. Well, guys, and that's all that goes into this. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you liked it. As always, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And then I'm really looking forward to see you all on the next one. Also, let me know how you take your screenshots. Is there anything that you could have done better? Is there anything that could have been different? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. And then I'm really looking forward to see you all again on the next one.